Welcome back to Hip Hop Flash. It's been over 2 years since Kendrick Lamar and Drake completely changed hip hop with their legendary rap battle. Today, we're looking back at why Not Like Us became one of the most devastating diss tracks ever released, and why its impact is still being discussed today. As Kendrick Lamar released his third song within a 36-hour span, it has never been more apparent that he is determined to win this battle and destroy Drake as quickly as possible. After the release of Drake's Family Matters, Kendrick responded with Meet the Grams, a diss track that felt as sinister and vicious as the genre can get. But Kendrick didn't stop there. With his latest diss record, Not Like Us, he isn't just responding to some of the biggest claims and narratives Drake tried to push in this feud. After attacking Drake through his own family, Kendrick now puts him on display for the entire music industry, especially the people who have arguably been the most important to Drake's success. Before we can understand how Kendrick was able to attack Drake from yet another angle, we first need to look at what Drake did that set up another diss from Lamar. On Family Matters, among the many shocking claims and accusations Drake threw Kendrick's way, one of the methods he used to undermine Kendrick's credibility was by shouting out West Coast artists he believes truly represent the region and embody the lifestyle often portrayed in its music. Drake specifically highlighted artists like Chris Brown and YG as authentic West Coast figures, while implying that Kendrick is not. As Kendrick has done repeatedly throughout this feud, he takes Drake's claims and throws them right back at him. One of the very first things you hear on this track is the unmistakable producer tag of DJ Mustard, as arguably the West Coast producer with the biggest catalog of hit records over the last decade, and someone who has worked alongside YG since the beginning of his career. Using a Mustard beat immediately shuts down another one of Drake's attacks without Kendrick even having to say a word. Beyond the production, Kendrick takes his trolling to another level. Over this bouncy West Coast instrumental, he uses the same flow and rhyme patterns that are synonymous with Bay Area MCs like E40. With every musical element working together to throw Drake's own words back in his face, Kendrick sets the stage perfectly before even delivering his lyrics. When it comes to Kendrick's performance, he has complete freedom to attack Drake from every possible angle. Less than 24 hours earlier, he had released a track whose writing and production felt genuinely horrifying because of how personal and layered it became. Here, however, he takes a sharp turn and shows just how versatile he is by dissing Drake within the framework of a classic West Coast anthem. As for the lyrics, Kendrick wastes no time getting back to the complete lyrical annihilation that has defined all of his recent releases. He doesn't simply mock Drake for appearing to be on his last legs in this battle. He attacks him from even more shocking angles that not only reinforce existing narratives, but also challenge the way people view Drake as a whole. To showcase every aspect of his lyrical ability, Kendrick gives this diss a much more humorous tone compared to the darker, more vengeful records that came before it. This suggests that he's becoming increasingly confident about ending this beef once and for all. At the same time, he seems to be entering full Thanos mode, attacking Drake through every corner of his artistry. You have to give Kendrick credit for that. In rap battles where the pressure is this intense, even the greatest MCs usually rely on the style they know works best. Kendrick, however, keeps pushing the boundaries of what a diss track can sound like. Despite the almost comedic tone of the first half of the song, its themes remain incredibly serious. Once again, Kendrick focuses on Drake's uncomfortable history involving young women. Between memorable punchlines and the creativity he uses to portray Drake and his circle as outright weirdos and creeps, Kendrick dissects Drake in a way that feels much lighter on the surface, while remaining just as calculated and humiliating underneath.
What becomes increasingly apparent throughout Kendrick's verses is his determination to make this darker chapter of Drake's career define his public image. While Drake seemingly studied Mr. Morales and the Big Steppers to attack Kendrick's marriage and personal struggles, Kendrick appears to have studied Drake's recent projects to understand the mindset behind his rival's twisted morality and his decline as an artist. Although Kendrick has already referenced For All the Dogs, the more these diss tracks are analyzed and Drake's lyrics are decoded, the more it seems that the key to understanding who Drake is today lies in his 2021 album, Certified Lover Boy. Throughout that project, Drake delivered a number of questionable lyrics that now play directly into the narratives Kendrick has been building. Many of those lines were overshadowed by the Drake and Kanye West feud in 2021, but Kendrick clearly took note. That album gave him insight into Drake's philosophy and the behavior he has been criticized for over the years. Using that understanding, Kendrick turns Drake's own branding against him. While Kendrick makes several bold accusations that fit within the framework he has built, one of his cleverest moments comes when he mocks the legacy of Certified Lover Boy by calling himself the Certified Boogeyman, portraying himself as the nightmare Drake can't escape and symbolizing Drake's impending defeat. He doesn't stop there. Kendrick flips the album title once again, turning it into something far more insulting, something that can't even be repeated in this video. Even the song's cover art reinforces this message. It features Drake's mansion, famously known as the Embassy, displayed as if it appears on a list that no one ever wants to be associated with. The image includes 13 markers placed on the property, suggesting that something deeply disturbing is hidden beneath the surface. Despite the heavy subject matter, Kendrick balances it with witty one-liners and jokes that make the record surprisingly entertaining. The result is a diss track that not only lands its punches, but also has all the ingredients of a genuine club anthem. As the second half of the record begins, Kendrick expands the scope of his attack on Drake. He tells Drake that he should never return to Oakland after disrespecting Tupac the way he did. As Kendrick continues questioning Drake's character, he delivers a series of memorable punchlines and references that either mock Drake outright or further damage his public image. One of the biggest moments centers on Kendrick accusing Drake of betraying his own mentor, Lil Wayne, by pursuing Wayne's girlfriend while he was incarcerated. Kendrick also warns Drake about continuing to disrespect Serena Williams. He suggests that because Serena is from Compton, continuing those attacks could have serious consequences. From there, Kendrick raises even more questions about Drake's alleged behind-the-scenes business dealings and the personal habits he may be trying to keep hidden. Yet, despite the seriousness of these accusations, Kendrick keeps the energy high over the smooth West Coast production. One of the funniest moments arrives when he refers to Drake not as the 6 God, but the 69 God, a line that instantly became one of the most memorable insults from the entire battle, and one that is likely to follow Drake for a long time. In the song's final verse, Kendrick delivers arguably the most brutal set of bars on the entire track. He directly responds to several of Drake's disses from Family Matters. After Drake mocked Kendrick's music and referred to him as an activist in a dismissive way, Kendrick answers by giving Drake a history lesson about the oppression and exploitation that he frequently writes about. He specifically points to Atlanta as a place where countless black people were historically exploited. Then, bringing the argument into the present day, Kendrick claims Drake is repeating that same pattern by building his career through artists from the city. According to Kendrick, Drake has relied on artists like Future, Lil Baby, 21 Savage, Young Thug, Quavo, and 2 Chainz to ride the waves they created, borrowing their culture and influence to gain credibility in hip-hop that he otherwise may never have earned.
Looking at it from that perspective, Kendrick ends the verse with one of the most memorable lines on the record. "Know you not a colleague, you a colonizer." It's a devastating conclusion. After Drake delivered what many considered weak bars on Family Matters, Kendrick flipped the conversation entirely. Rather than simply responding with another insult, he crafted a verse that argues Drake's success has been built on borrowing the influence, sound, and culture of Atlanta's artists. While Drake often points to the number of artists he has helped achieve their first #1 records, Kendrick counters by suggesting that Drake himself would never have reached his current level without the influence and stature he adopted from Atlanta and many of its biggest stars. From a strategic standpoint, this gives Kendrick a significant advantage. He positions Drake not only against an individual opponent, but against an entire region that has shaped much of his musical identity. Throughout the battle, Drake has portrayed himself as someone who has elevated countless artists and helped build careers. Kendrick challenges that narrative by labeling Drake a fraud, someone who profits from styles and cultures that other artists spent years creating. Overall, between the creative ways Kendrick responds to Drake's latest attacks and the damage he continues to inflict on Drake's public image, the music industry, and even some of Drake's closest collaborators, it's safe to say Kendrick Lamar secures yet another victory with this release. At this stage, Kendrick appears to be playing a much bigger game. His goal isn't necessarily to damage Drake's first-week sales or commercial success. Instead, he's attempting to reshape how listeners view Drake as an artist, and more importantly, make other artists question whether they should continue collaborating with him. When you consider Drake's close relationships with many of Atlanta's biggest stars and the number of public fallouts he has had over the years, it naturally raises questions about what his true intentions may have been all along. It may even explain why Drake has seemed so determined to preserve his relationship with Future, who is still widely viewed as one of the defining figures of the most culturally dominant region in hip-hop. The biggest takeaway from this track is that Kendrick has once again pushed Drake further away from everything he once represented. While Kendrick isn't going to erase Drake's millions of fans, he is actively encouraging artists to think twice before working with him. Considering how Drake has consistently aligned himself with each new generation of rising stars to remain at the forefront of the culture, this particular angle of the beef could prove especially important. How the rap world ultimately interprets these accusations may play a major role in shaping the next chapter of Drake's career. It could influence not only how fans view him moving forward, but also whether artists choose to collaborate with him after this feud finally comes to an end. Overall, with another layered diss track that also functions as an incredibly catchy West Coast anthem, Kendrick Lamar has elevated this battle to a historic level for hip-hop. At this point, Drake now has two massive diss records that demand a response. Only time will tell whether he can survive another exchange with Kendrick, or if this battle is already slipping too far out of his reach. Let me know what you think about this track and the pressure Kendrick is putting on Drake as he continues trying to dismantle his public image and career. And if you want to hear my breakdown of how Kendrick Lamar and Drake changed hip-hop forever by releasing two of the wildest diss tracks of all time in less than an hour, be sure to check out that video next. Thank you for watching Hip Hop Flash. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive into the biggest stories in hip-hop. Even years later, this battle remains one of the biggest moments in hip-hop history. Let me know in the comments whether you think Kendrick's strategy still holds up today.